Alright guys, so today we're going to be checking out the SoundPEATS T3. Now if you're like me, just hearing T3 got me excited because I assumed this was a sequel to the T2s, which was SoundPEATS, honestly one of their best earbuds. It had hybrid active noise cancelling, had impressive audio quality, it was inexpensive, and this was also the pair that we had the Gamesky edition of. So again, thinking T3 and thinking this was a sequel, I could say this is SoundPEATS' biggest mistake just by calling it the T3. This is more closer to the SoundPEATS Q because this pair, although it does have active noise canceling, it's using feed-forward technology instead of hybrid. So feed-forward is more of a lower end of active noise canceling. It's going to just do a fairly decent job here and there of blocking noises out. Now do keep in mind this pair is less expensive than the T2s because it does come in retailing for 40 bucks, and SoundPEATS even included a coupon code so you can pick these up for $29. And for the $29, there is a lot going on with this pair, but I still just throughout this review and throughout testing couldn't help but to keep comparing these to the T2s. But we're going to check out what features these do have. We're going to talk about what all comes inside the box. We're going to talk about the audio and see if it's worth the $29 or $40 price tag. Now to start with, let's just go ahead and talk about the noise canceling. Now this pair does have 3 different modes. It has a normal mode, an active noise canceling mode, and then it also has an ambient mode. But the interesting thing here is SoundPEATS decided to have the default mode the ambient mode. Now I think this is because they want you to think the noise canceling is better than it is, because when you first put the earbuds in and you're listening to music, you're listening in ambient mode. So it seems as though everything is louder around you. You can hear your surroundings very well. In fact, the ambient mode is very decent on here. You could carry on a conversation with no issues. Now, if you are listening to your music about halfway up, it's still gonna just kind of drown out your surroundings. But anything below 50%, you can easily hear things around you. So I do like these because of their ambient mode. But once you switch it into active noise canceling, you will think that it's blocking out more because it's coming from ambient mode, but really this pair doesn't block out a whole lot of noise. When it comes to low engine noises or air conditioner units or people talking or anything like that, it's just dulling it down a little bit. So I would say maybe it's blocking out around 30% of the things around you, where, you know, pairs like the Bose and the Sony, which are a lot more expensive, they're blocking out closer to 90%. So I would not recommend this pair for the noise canceling. I do think it has a very good ambient mode, and then just listening to these with the ANC off, which I recommend just so you can save on battery life, is really not that much different than when the ANC's on. Now, as far as any of the other technology in this pair, it does have Bluetooth 5.2. It is using the Qualcomm 3040 chip, so you're going to get decent performance without having to sacrifice a whole lot of battery life. And this pair is actually really good with videos and movies. I noticed I had 0 lag with those. I did notice with gaming there is a slight lag there. There's no low latency mode or anything like that to try to cut that down. So if you're looking for a pair specifically for gaming, there are some better options out there. But for any other type of media like videos and stuff like that, this is an excellent option to have. Now, as far as using these outdoors, this is another interesting choice. There's no official IP rating on this pair. Now, I do think it's probably going to be fine against rain and sweating and things like that, but I don't know. It doesn't have an official IP rating, and I didn't want to dunk these in water, so do keep that in mind if you're looking at this pair to use at the gym. Now, as far as anything they've included inside the box, because this pair does have ear tips, you do get the usual small, medium, and large silicone ear tips, and they also have included a very small USB-C cable. Now, you will have to use this. This case does not have any kind of Qi wireless charging. It also doesn't have fast charging either. So I really wish it would have had fast charging, but I do have to keep in mind kind of its price point and that it's a pair that you can get for under 40 bucks. And speaking of the charging, the battery life on this pair is just okay. Now, if you decide to use these with the noise canceling off, which again, I recommend, you can get around 5 hours on the earbuds, but you're only still gonna get around 15 hours using the case. But if you do decide to use these with the noise canceling on, that's gonna bring the battery life down to 4 hours on the earbuds with around 12 hours using the case. So the overall battery life, including the case, is definitely on the low end. This is a huge drop from the SoundPEATS T2s because the T2s get you around 10 hours on the earbuds and around 30 hours using the case. Now moving over to checking out the case, I actually like the design of the case. It's very simple. You've got this squared off look to it. Again, it's just so much different than what the T2s are. Again, it just looks like completely different earbuds. But the T3s, you can see it has the USB-C input on the side. You can see that on the front of the cases where there's the single indicator light. And this is just to give you an idea of how much battery life is left on the case. And the case only charges the headphones a little over 2 times. So it's not completely 3. You'll get 2 full charges and then a little bit more before you need to charge the case. Now moving over to looking at the earbuds, another noticeable difference compared to the T2s is this pair has the stem style design. The T2s was just a simple earbud. Now these do use touch controls and they almost got this right because they allow you to control everything but the ability to go back to the previous track. And the reason they did this is the function that you have on the right earbud to get your track to go forward, when you press and hold on the left earbud to do the opposite, that's where it allows you to switch between your noise canceling mode, your ambient mode, and your normal mode. So for them to be able to do that, they sacrifice the ability to go back to the previous track. And again, that's just disappointing because it means this pair doesn't let you control everything. Now, for you guys that do like to use your earbuds for phone calls, I think these actually do a really good job, especially at their price point. I noticed it did a better job in quieter environments. It just picked up my voice in a more natural way, although you still do hear some digital noise. But when it came to using these in a crowd or with other sounds going on around you, I noticed that the mic took a slight dip in sound quality, but you guys can be a judge by listening to a test here. Alright guys, so here is the mic test using the T3s. I really don't have many complaints when it comes to this microphone. I think it picks up my voice very well. I think that it picks up bass tones really nicely, which a lot of earbuds don't. But this is what it would sound like if you were to take a call. And so now here is the mic test with the crowd noise. You can tell that it's doing something to block out the surroundings, but in my opinion, I feel like it also affects the way that I sound. So I think it sounds better with not being in a noisy environment, but this is what it would sound like if you were to take a call in public. So now let's talk about the sound, because the sound, in my opinion, it's one of those things that could easily make me forget about some of the shortcomings on this pair. And I think the sound on these overall is pretty good. It's not as good as the T2s, but this is still a very dynamic sounding pair of earbuds. It is definitely boomy on the low end. It has a nice punch to it, and it's not trying to clean it up. It's allowing these to have that somewhat subwoofer type effect where it has a resonating feel to the bass, and the mids are definitely pushed forward. It didn't matter if it was male or female vocalists, they always sounded up front. And the treble, and I never say this, at times can seem to be a little too harsh. I personally like a bright treble, but if you're gonna listen to these loud, the treble at times seems to kind of peak. Now, it doesn't have that sibilant sound where the S's or anything sound too high, but having that bright treble, it just kind of takes over at times. And that's saying a lot because the bass is so strong on this pair that you would think it would kind of balance out. Now, the bass never seems to take a dive, even though the treble hits these very high notes, but the balance of the sound overall just tends to lean towards the treble if you're gonna listen to these loudly. Now, if you listen to them, I would say maybe at 70% volume or lower, it has a much more balanced feel to it where the bass and the treble seem to be on the same playing field. But anything above that, the treble just starts to peak. You may be completely fine with this, but this is definitely something I wanted to point out. Now, when it comes to the sound stage and the sound imaging, this is not a very open sounding earbud. Now, that's also because the bass is so boomy on this pair. That tends to usually make earbuds kind of sound a little bit more closed in, and that's where this pair's at. I would still say it sounds like you're in a medium-sized room, but it just doesn't sound as open as a lot of the other earbuds I've tested. So honestly, I think it is a very good earbud, but I don't think this is a good sequel to an incredible pair. I think this should have been the SoundPEATS Q2, and that would have made me see this completely different, because really the only cons that I have with these, I can't knock it for not having Qi wireless charging because you can get these for 29 bucks, but I still would have liked the controls to give me the ability to go back to the previous track. That's the only thing that it's missing. And then I really think the treble needs to be tamed down a little bit when it comes to higher volumes, because outside of that, the sound is dynamic. It fits a lot of the consumer-friendly sound of other earbuds, and it just is a fun earbud to listen to. But guys, that's my video on the brand new SoundPEATS T3. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for checking out all the other videos. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.